A vacation in space? For the longest time, that was pure science fiction, right? Something out of a movie. Well, today, we're going to explore how that dream is actually blasting off into a very real industry.
I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. If I'd asked you this, say, 5 or 10 years ago, you probably would have laughed, right? But today, the idea of a regular person, not an astronaut, looking down on our planet from the silence of space, well, it's not a fantasy anymore. It's happening, and it's changing everything.
So here's our flight plan for this explainer. First, we'll see how this sci-fi dream is becoming a reality. Then we'll look at the new space race. We'll talk about the price of that amazing view, cover the major hurdles before liftoff, and finally we'll ask the big question: could a trip to orbit be in your future vacation plans?
All right, first up, how this wild dream is actually turning into something real. And just to be clear, we're not talking about sending career astronauts on scientific missions here. We are talking about a totally new era of travel for the rest of us.
So what is space tourism, really? At its heart, it's exactly what you see here. It's commercial travel, for fun, for education, whatever the reason, but the key part is that it's for people who aren't professional astronauts. It's for us. And what's the big draw? What are people actually signing up for? Well, it really boils down to two things. The first is that absolutely breathtaking, life-altering view of Earth from above. The second, that incredible, bizarre feeling of just floating, experiencing true zero gravity. That's the core of the whole experience.
Okay, so who's actually making all this happen? That brings us to what I like to call the new space race. And this time, it's not a race between countries, it's a race between private companies, all trying to be the first to open up that final frontier.
You have to remember, for decades, for as long as we've been going to space, it was a government-only club. You had to be a highly trained, specialized astronaut for agencies like NASA. But now, that entire model is being flipped on its head, all thanks to private enterprise.
And who's leading the charge? Well, you've got two main heavyweights, Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. These are the companies pouring billions and billions of dollars into the rocket technology that's making these civilian trips possible.
And what's wild is just how new all of this is. The real turning point was just a few years ago, in 2021. That's the year Blue Origin actually sent a crew of civilians to the edge of space. SpaceX followed up with their own private missions. Suddenly, it wasn't a what-if anymore, it was happening. The age of space tourism was officially here.
Now, this all sounds absolutely incredible, right? But there's a pretty major barrier to entry. So let's talk about the cost of getting that once-in-a-lifetime view.
Yeah, you're seeing that correctly. We're not talking about a first-class airline ticket. We are talking millions of dollars for one seat. So for right now, this amazing experience is pretty much reserved for the super, super wealthy.
But there is a reason for hope, and the best analogy is to look back at the history of air travel. 100 years ago, flying in a plane was an insane luxury, only for the richest of the rich. Today, it's something millions of us do. The hope is that with better tech and more competition, the cost of space travel is going to follow that exact same path.
Of course, money isn't the only roadblock here. Before space tourism can really become mainstream, the industry has some massive, really complex challenges it has to solve first.
And it really boils down to two critical issues: safety and the environment. First, safety. Let's be real. Space travel is still incredibly complex and inherently risky. Companies have to prove they can do this safely over and over again. And then there's the environmental impact. Launching rockets has a carbon footprint. And if this industry grows, finding sustainable solutions is going to be absolutely essential.
Okay, so let's imagine for a second that these challenges get solved. What does the future actually look like? What could our vacation plans be in, say, a few decades?
The long-term vision goes way beyond just a quick trip up and down. We're talking about concepts like orbiting space hotels where you could stay for a few nights, tourist flights that take you on a trip around the moon, and yeah, eventually, maybe even missions to Mars for the ultimate adventurers.
And this isn't just a fantasy. Experts are actually projecting that within a few decades, say 30 or 40 years, this could go from a hobby for billionaires to a real, proper industry, sending thousands of travelers to space every single year.
When you take a step back, it all kind of makes sense. This drive to explore, it's just part of who we are. It's in our DNA. We've always been explorers, crossing oceans, discovering continents, climbing mountains. Space really is just the next frontier in that long journey.
So, I'll just leave you with this thought. Right now, saying, next vacation, let's plan it in space, sounds like a joke. But who knows?
In our lifetime, maybe that sentence won't sound so out of this world after all. What do you think?